Last winter, during a heavy snowstorm, there was a young organic Danish farmer, and his name was Christian. And Christian was, during that winter in the storm, in his stable among the cows, and he was talking with God, and he had 3 questions. The first question was, when will Denmark go from the Danish krone to the euro? And God answered, not in your lifetime, my friend. Second question was, but will we then have at least a federal Europe? Not in your lifetime, my friend. But again, a third question, a cap reform. We had Mansholt, we had McSherry, we had Fischler, and now we have Ciolos. Will that never end, that cap reforms? And God answered, not in my lifetime. Good. I was asked to talk a little bit about ARC, the Agriculture and Rural Convention, a civil society initiative based on the growing concern in the European civil society about industrial farming, the negative consequences of pesticides, GMOs, unhealthy food, obesitas, loss of wildlife, biodiversity, and not only the wildlife and the biodiversity, but also the biodiversity, the species. And you can say that the last 50 years, the CAP, supported from the beginning by the left and the right politically, was characterized by a technological modernization. And with all, at the end, all that negative consequences. And I think that today, the civil society gives a very clear signal that the next period, the next round, or the next era of modernization should not be only a technical modernization, but an ecological modernization. And I think that ecological modernization goes together with an ecological intensification. And I think that new language we need to discuss the new goals of the GAP, if it not will be only green window dressing. And also I think that we see in the civil society a huge growing gap and widening gap between farmers and consumers. The fact that in many countries today we have to send our kids from school to the farm to know that potatoes are not growing in the trees but in the soil is good that we do it in the schools. But at the same time, it's a very heavy signal about the huge gap between producing food and consuming food. And I think it's at least a missed chance in the actual debate that we're still talking about the common agricultural policy and not about the common food policy, because I think then we talk about the whole chain. And I think it's very interesting to see also in the debate, and I will tell you later more about it in the ARC, that there's a very important difference with the debate 10, 15 years ago. 10, 15 years ago, all the green NGOs were against agriculture, against farming. But nowadays, we see an important change towards that we are, as civil society, are criticizing the current model, but we are in favor of the farmers who have a good practice. And that's an important change and gives another support for the farming community, because I think that last 10, 20 years, also farmers and organic farmers felt alone in society. And now the farming community have new potential friends in the civil society. And ARC tries to bring together all that voices. We've seen that every 7 years there's a CAP reform. And the past, the game was already there. It was just the agribusiness, it was just Copa-Cogeca who had to make a deal with the Commission, to say it in an easy way, and the next CAP round was finished. Today, given also the new role of the European Parliament, but also another awareness in society, gives the possibility to the civil society to express. And which is new in the political process is that the Commission and the Commissioner has said, I'm really interested in what the civil society thinks. And I understand quite well that, and I agree with that the Commissioner needs another type of support in society and in the European Parliament, because only the rural and farmers' voice is not enough to keep the agricultural budget on the table. You need other forces in society to support an agricultural budget. And I think that is a new challenge, even given the economical crisis, where we have to say, let's hope that a public function as agriculture and food and nature will not be spoiled by just short-term economical crisis budget cuts. But that's for the next months. And I think also we can build in Europe as civil society organizations, NGOs, on success stories. Think about the hormones in the past and think about till today about the anti-GMO movement. And it's clear that there is still in some nations is a debate about cutting the agricultural budget or partly or even as a whole. And I think even there's a quite strong populist, nationalistic wind in some countries in Europe, which will, in the next months, will come out and say, stop the big spending on agriculture in Europe. But I think that we have also to realize, it's to say it, to paraphrase an American saying, it's the food, stupid. And I think we have to think about that sentence. And I think also we have to take care that we don't step into the booby trap of only technical adjustments, only technical solutions and criticism. I think that aspects as basic, the farmer's income, basic as a fair price, not only in fair trade for third world countries, but also a fair price for farmers in Europe, should be high on the agenda, including employment. And I think we have to realize it's for the first time when I'm listening to Ciolos that he is used, that the Commission, talking about the CAP, is using the word employment. Employment has always been an outcome of the common agricultural policy. The rural exodus was a natural given thing. But today we have to realize that we cannot go on sending people to towns and to cities where there is no jobs available. That period is finished. So I think also organic agricultural, which is more labor intensive, we should not present that as a negative aspect, but as a positive aspect that we have and we can create employment in rural areas in a new way in using organic agriculture. The same is not only technical adjustment when we're talking about the price volatility. You know, the huge hills and bottoms of the prices for farmers is bad for farmers, but is also bad for consumers. And then I go back to Sikko Mansholt, who was always saying agriculture policy should be based on the reasonable prices for farmers and reasonable prices for consumers. And that's a huge task, and to do it on a stable level, because that instability is bad also for a sustainable agriculture. ARC was launched 2 years ago, Agriculture Rural Convention, by Forum Synergies and by Groupe de Bruges. Groupe de Bruges is an independent think tank on the European level on the future of the CAP, founded 16 years ago by Edgar Pisani, the former Minister of Agriculture during de Gaulle in the 50s. He's still alive, he is 90-something years old, still writing books, and he says, I cannot die because I need to write 10 other books. So keep a heart in the fridge for him to replace, we say. One of his last books was called An Old Man and the Land. Beautiful, beautiful book to read. Groupe de Bruges always has said, for us it's important to be internationalist on the European level and to overbridge also political differences to come for new thinking. In the ARC, together with Forum Synergies, we have had 6 months of debate, very intensive debate, building consensus a little bit based on the UN method. I remember that 1.5 years ago, Antje, we were with more than 100 people for 24 hours in a building, together, everybody with a screen in front of them, objection, text, and the final, what we call communication, is there. And we have two main things. One is the paradigm shift in agriculture, not only small reforms, a paradigm shift from the industrial model to a more, say, artisanal model. And based on that, what I said, that ecological modernization. And rural renaissance. Rural renaissance means not, and I think that some other speakers today will talk about it, how also important for Eastern Europe that is, that the employment, that today they're working 800,000 young Romanians in Spain picking tomatoes is a shame, I think. And that's a shame, and it should be a challenge for the rural policy and for the leader and for the agriculture policy as a whole to keep young farmers in Romania on the land. Thank you. We are quite, you know, we are a critical and organization, but also we are positive. The fact, if we are reading the proposals of Scholz, we can say, at least, and that's the first step, the language is changed. It was 10 years ago impossible to talk about green public goods. It was greening the cap. It was only a small minority who was using that language. That we are now talking about ecological focus areas, that we are talking about rotation. I think that is new, at least on the level of debate. And it gives also the civil society organizations better possibility to do the discussion, because at least we have now a common language. And I think that also the position of organic agriculture has changed in the political arena. And not only on the level of an individual commissioner, but when I see the debates in the parliament, when I see the debates in the council, organic agriculture is on the table. Organic agriculture, as Scholz himself has said, is the best laboratory we have for sustainable agriculture. Is the best laboratory we have for sustainable agriculture. There's a huge task, not only for the political arena, but also for organizations as IFOAM, to be proud of that and to make new coalitions with the front runners in sustaining in the conventional agriculture. Also, I think I now have my head of the Group de Bruges. As Group de Bruges, we were together, I think, 3 weeks ago in Prague for 2 days to talk about one specific word which the Commission is using. That's a collective approach, cooperatives. And I think especially when we're talking about the public goods, it's very important to make a next step that there's not only a contract with an individual farmer, but that should be for the landscape development and for sustainability as a whole, for the water quality management. Very important that we have in every region local cooperatives who can make deals on that level. But that's, I think, a next step. Another aspect, I think, for the civil society organization is very important that we will not have only small spots of very interesting sustainable agriculture, protecting marginal areas, but we say sustainable agriculture everywhere. Sustainable agriculture on every hectare, and we realize quite well that you have to develop a policy which will make possible small steps for the big group, conventional farmers, and make big steps for a small group, say those farmers who go organic. Today, the position of ARC is supported with more than 150 NGOs in Europe, over 22 countries, and 150 NGOs give together a critical mass. And I think that's also the advantage, that we're not sending everybody is sending to the Parliament or to the Commission the proposal, but that we have worked really together. And I think that also IFOAM has played a very important role together with organizations as Slow Food, Greenpeace, and even outside in the United States, the Institute for Agriculture and Trade Policy. And yeah, for the next period, I think it's very important that we build links across Europe, also on the national level, because we have a certain fear that given the new role of the European Parliament after Lisbon, that the next months it will be a little bit a deal between the Agricultural Committee of the European Parliament and the Commission, and that they ask to the other colleagues, we have a deal, don't intervene. Let us make the deal. We are the agricultural specialists. And that's the big danger. Because I think we need a full debate in the plenary of the European Parliament, where also other committees, as the Health Committee, as the Biodiversity Committee, can give their comments and their suggestions and their support. If it's only a small deal, let's take care. So we are now thinking here with 150 people together. If everybody the next month do a phone call, a letter, an email to the member of the European Parliament you know, or maybe you know a friend who knows a member of the Parliament, at least be active also in your local and national organization to influence the political process, that it's not only a question of the Agriculture Committee, but it's a civil issue which needs to be debated also by other aspects. And the same is, I think, and I think that also our Danish colleague is very clear that we will have in January the Irish presidency, and at least also our friends in Ireland. Please be active on the national level, because it helps. And we will have together also, I think, with organizations as Slow Food, etc. In September, we will have a big media event. We will have the Good Food March on Brussels. I think it's September 19 or something like that, but it will be announced. And at least invite also your constituency, your members, your friends, your colleagues, your kids, your grandparents, to go to the Good Food March, because I think it's worth to do.